So how do you make these come alive? Four opportunities I'm going to talk about, and this is one of the last text slides, so look forward to some pictures. Classroom organisms, emulating hands-on museum experiences, exploring, measuring, and documenting the school grounds, and also through the environmental club. So, worms. This is one of my most popular programs at my school. Basically, I have about 2,500 worms that I keep in the classroom. And I can tie these into the curriculum, the state standards, in many different ways. We could look at different body systems. We can look at scientific classification. We can look at the worm bin as an ecosystem. Look at food webs. Look at all sorts of different things that we're supposed to be learning about from a test book, a test prep book or a textbook. But instead, we're doing it through something actually hands-on. This is Nicholas, this is Imani. They are dedicated worm workers this year. They're both in the 7th grade. And as you can see, this is something that students get to do. I originally wanted to get a snake. I really like snakes. I was like, how cool would it be to have a snake in the classroom? I got thinking about it. And from my students' perspective, if you're sitting in a classroom and we're learning about ecology or snakes or whatever, and you want to hold that snake, there are 32 kids in class, a period is 43 minutes long, you're probably not going to get that opportunity. So I think the worms really provided an opportunity to change that. Worms are much more democratic. Everybody gets to hold a worm in the classroom. Everyone gets to dig their hands in and try to find the worms. Students learn how to feed the worms, take care of the worms. They learn about how to use measurement methods to investigate the worms. This is an activity that works with all grades. I've worked with 1st graders with the worms and worked with 8th graders. This is a group of 5th graders and a volunteer in my classroom. And she came and helped out, and basically the kids learn about worms. And I think this is a really important thing that you won't even find in the curriculum. When you're dealing with a worm, or really with a lot of different creatures, we're much bigger than them. We have control over whether they live or die. So when you think about a student, they're going to be 50 to 70,000 times the mass of one of these little worms. So it's important to teach them, when you interact with another creature, you control whether it gets hurt or not. It's important to think about how your actions affect other people, other organisms, and that's really something that, you can find traces of it in state curriculums, but that's just something that they need to know. This was a mathematics class. We were studying statistics, and we were studying random samples. So we were trying to estimate the population of the worm bins without actually counting all the worms. So what we did was we actually took the principles that were in the book and used them in class to actually estimate the population of worms. Some special education students, they actually adopted a worm bin. This was a really big deal for them. Often they are confined to one room a day and they don't really get to travel around. So when you bring something exciting to them, they love it. Feeding the worms, learning about decomposition, learning about how to take care of things, being responsible. This is Ashana, Eileen, and Darlene. They were my most dedicated worm workers. Unfortunately, they had graduated from our school and now go to high school. But I'd like to tell you a story, especially about Ashana and Darlene. Before I get to that, one of the things that they did that was really cool was they kept track of everything that went into the worm bin and out of it for a year. So here they are using calculators, using scales, they use triple beam balances, they use all sorts of things that they needed to learn. And they were actually able to do a project. A lot of times when students are working with the worms, I don't even think they realize that they are learning, but they are, and that's very important. So here's Ashana and Darlene, and they were so interested in the worms that they helped me actually do a presentation to 1st graders. They actually conducted the presentation themselves. I just assisted, so it's quite a big deal for, at the time, a couple of 7th graders to present to a classroom full of 28 little children. This is Kayla. This is really interesting. This picture was taken in 2008. She came up to me about 2 weeks ago. She said, "Mr. Cole, you're the one with the red wigglers, right? I never had this student. There's no reason for her to know me other than this classroom visit and then helping them out with the worms." She even remembered the name of the worms, red wigglers. Okay, this was obviously a positive experience for her. She connects to it. She remembers it. all the time in the hallways. There were all these little kids coming up to me. Mr. Cole, we want to see the worms. And I had no idea who any of these kids are. They weren't in my class. They were first graders that got to deal with the worms. And I think that's, anecdotally, it's a very important idea that when students are engaged and they are having a positive experience, they're going to take away something from that. So just the last bit on the worms, again, Darlene, Shauna, Eileen, Raymond, you'll hear about later, and Tariq. This picture was taken last June. And what's interesting about this picture is they had already graduated. They came back to visit the worms. They said, Mr. Cole, we want to see the worms one last time before we go to high school. They could have been sitting at home, they could have been watching TV, they could have been outside playing basketball. They wanted to see the worms. That meant a lot to me, and I think that it says it meant a lot to them. So another opportunity, environmental opportunity in the classroom is creating essentially like a museum experience. Because of my schedule, I work with 4th through 8th graders, I can't take one group of students on a field trip. So I wanted to bring that experience to the classroom. So I visited places like the New York Botanical Garden, the American Museum of Natural History, and I kind of took the best of what they had and what fit our curriculum and built it into when I had a classroom last year. So students one day might be using microscopes to investigate a subject. The next day, they might be working with models of the human body. The next day, they might be looking at plants and thinking about how the structures of plants are similar to the structures of humans and other animals. Of course, I incorporate the worms. They look at periodic table, or maps, or different books, learning how to cite their sources. So basically the idea is every single day, can I give these kids a hands-on experience? It's not so easy to do with 32 kids in a class. So what this station rotation did was it allowed 11 different stations in the classroom, and each day a small group of students would be able to engage hands-on in the material. This took a lot of upfront planning, but I really think that this is the way to do it. And certainly if you look at the literature on successful education, this is one of the best practices. Not my idea, but it worked in my classroom. Another way that I have found to create an environmental opportunity for my students is to explore the grounds. Now, when I went to high school, I remember we had about a half acre next to our school that was reserved for environmental education. We had trees, we had breeding frogs, we had wildflowers. It was pretty cool. I teach in the Bronx. We don't have half an acre. We have a courtyard with 24 honey locust trees and tree pits. We have a few other pockets where there might be just a little bit of grass or a few bushes. But that's not to stop us. We went outside and found what we could find. Find what we could find. Look for insects, look for other macroinvertebrates, learn to identify the plants. Come up with different ways of documenting those. This is a group of 4th and 5th grade students that have had a lot of fun exploring the grounds. This is a really interesting group of students. I have several 4th graders who can't read. I have several 4th graders who can't write very well unless they have the letters written in front of them. And it's my job to prepare this group of students for the 4th grade state science exam. And I tried what the school told me to do for a while, and I found that it just didn't work. If students can't read, if they can't write, and they have no connection to the material, what good is the test book going to do? So I said, you know what, let's go outside. We went outside. One of our first projects was to make bird feeders, and they were thrilled. We got to put the bird feeders up in the trees, they looked for birds, and when we went back inside, I had set up their sentences for them. They were actually able to write about it. They were engaged. They wanted to write about it because they were having a great experience. So this is interesting. There's this drop-off here, and you can reach up high into the trees, and they wanted to get their bird feeders into the trees. And so when they first go out there, they're leaning over. I'm just like pulling my hair out. I'm like, oh my goodness, these kids are going to fall. From the time of death, this is not good. It's the end of environmental education. So I thought about it, and I was like, okay, I'm not going to tell them the answer. But I said, guys, you're not allowed to touch the rim. You can't touch the rim, but you have to get the bird feeder in the tree. And so what did my students do? Well, it's like a flashback to seeing humans out in the wild and learning to use tools. They found sticks. They used the sticks to put their bird feeders up in the trees. That is problem solving. That is a real world application of problem solving. And they can't get that necessarily inside the classroom.